Hello, welcome to the AppleInsider podcast. I'm William Gallagher. Our sponsor this week are IDOU and OpenCase. And this is, week 3 already of the beta releases for iOS 26, macOS Tahoe and more. It is, got to stress this, it's still the case, you should not install betas unless you're a developer. And actually, I was so close. I was going to make a joke there about it all. I was going to silence the audio suddenly as if yet another app had crashed. But given how bad I am with audio all by myself, I think you'd just believe me. So anyway, I'm joined as ever by Wes Hilliard, who last week watched the F1 experience in Apple Vision Pro, and this week, I imagine, is heading out to watch the whole film in movie theatres. So Wes, first question's got to be, have you bought your tickets? And the second's got to be, did you do so in Apple Wallet by any chance?
So I did get my tickets, and it's funny, they don't make it easy to get to the discount, because Fandango is just not designed for this at all. They're like, oh, go to the Fandango website or use the Fandango app. Well, guess what, guys? If you use the Fandango app, it opens the Fandango website as a modal inside of the app anyway. So it doesn't matter. It's not a in-app interface that you're dealing with. So come on, guys, native apps, please. But either way, once you're on the website and set up your tickets, you pick your seats, go to checkout, you can't just hit Apple Pay because you still haven't applied the promo code. So you have to go to checkout, log in, hit the promo code option, then type it in, then check out with Apple Pay. Then you get your discount. I wish they would make that more straightforward. There should be a button you click in this evil Apple advertisement that takes you straight to the checkout screen in Apple Pay that already has everything set up. But, put it all to work on the users. But yes, I did order my tickets. It was $18 for 2 whole tickets for us to go see it on Saturday.
Really?
I'm excited to check it out.
Bit of a bargain? Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have IMAX anywhere nearby, so this is a standard theater. This isn't even our bigger, cushier theater down the road. For some reason, that one is not showing F1 at all. The only places it's showing are 2 smaller theaters in the region. So my TV will probably have better visual quality than this theater. I haven't been to it in many years, but it'll still be a movie in a theater. I'm sure the speakers will make it boom a little bit, so it should be fun.
So not all that long ago, you slept over to Nashville to pick up your Apple Vision Pro, and you won't go that far to see a 2-hour movie.
I got other things to do, yeah.
Really did.
So anyway, the reason why we brought this up, and William, you alluded to it, is... So I actually did not get the notification, and there have been some erroneous reports around this. Apple did not send the Apple Wallet notification to everyone on Earth, or even everyone in the United States. It seemed to be a random sampling, more kind of a A/B test almost. And I bring that up because there's going to be a feature in Apple Wallet in the fall that will allow promotions to come through as notifications, and users will have an individual toggle to turn that off. So expect to see more. If you ever subscribe to Apple's email for promotions, I expect it'll be similar to that. Instead of it showing up in email, though, it'll be a notification through the Wallet app that'll come up and say, use Apple Pay at McDonald's and get a free medium fry, or use Apple Pay to get $10 off this ticket. And users will be able to turn those off. The crux of this, though, is it occurred today in a limited test, but people noticed that you can get $10 off this F1 ticket, and there's no toggle unless you're on the beta to turn those promotions off. And people freaked out. I'm assuming you did not get the notification, William.
No, I didn't. Let me just check one thing I'm not clear about. You said the individual toggle to turn it off is coming. Is that for every promotion that comes through, I can say no more? Or can I just switch them all off?
All right, so this is where it gets iffy. Apple, across its device ecosystem, I wish there was another word for it, because it is an ad. I'm not going to argue that these are not ads. It's an advertisement in the most classic sense. I wrote an article calling it a billboard. So going forward, I think the distinction needs to be, so we can define what we're talking about, the difference between a web ad, which is, think of Google and how companies, they bid on a spot on a website to show an ad to a person based on their gathered internet information. So we're going to call that web ads or just ads. Versus what Apple does on its platform is, again, still an ad, but we're going to call it a billboard just so that way it's a distinction, because those are not relying on user information. They're not relying on what is referred to as surveillance capitalism. And they are pertaining usually directly to the Apple ecosystem in some way. And I want that distinction to be clear because I think it's important as we discuss this. So Apple shows it, when you buy a new iPhone, if you aren't subscribed to Apple Music and you go to Apple Music, it will say, hey, you should subscribe to Apple Music. It's this is how you get it. If you didn't get Apple Care and you go to settings, it'll say, hey, you should probably get Apple Care. And there has been a lot of pushback in recent years over Apple doing this, saying that's wrong and we pay premium prices for these devices and that's crude, and Apple's pushback against ads for so many years. Why are they doing it now? And we'll get into the argument, our fors and against arguments into that in just a second, and why I don't agree with those arguments so much, because these are not web ads. It's different, right? Apple isn't showing a ad for shampoo or a casino on the lock screen like you might see on a budget Android phone. These are services, informational ads. Basically, how would a user otherwise find out about this information if it wasn't for this particular notification? And so specifically to this event, and there have been some like this before, Apple's crept in a notification to the TV app to advertise the sports thing, right? Soccer, MLS. So they'll say, come and get it now. It's $40 for a year. And it's an Apple TV notification. Or they'll have a notification now in Wallet for this movie ticket. And it's a notification that appears on your lock screen. It also appears in a promotion section, which you can only reach if you're an Apple card holder. If you open your Apple card and go to the ellipsis, there's a rewards and promotion section. And in there, you can find a link to the F1 ticket deal as well. So they're kind of buried right now, but they do exist. And Apple has been amping up its promotional stuff across its ecosystem in the last decade or so, especially since its services push began. So, William, what do you think about Apple sending people a notification from Apple Wallet to say, hey, here's how you save $10 on a movie that we made that's coming out this weekend?
Well, because I didn't get it, I think I'm a bit more sanguine about it. It sounds fine. I'm with you. I was going to say what you just said about how do people know about a service like Apple Music if they aren't shown. But this thing about it being not the way Google will advertise shampoo because you once looked up, I don't know, dandruff somewhere. You got this. You didn't get this alert. Sorry, did you get the alert? I'm mixing myself up here.
I did not get this notification. I wasn't part of whatever A/B test they were doing.
Because the thing is, apparently, Apple is having a small problem with F1 in that it's attracting older men as an audience and not anybody else. So I wondered whether the fact that I didn't get it is that I am older than you. You are more the target audience that it isn't getting yet. Were they singling out? But they're not. So is it purely by the numbers? These many millions of people.
I think they just did a random lottery. It's just one of those things where they probably selected a few thousand people and just hit send at complete random to say, let's see if anyone buys more tickets. Like, is something like this even going to work? Obviously, they're going to be working towards this more and going into the fall. I'm going to just say, I don't know if I've said it blatantly, I like this. This is 100% my deal. I want this information. I was going to go see the F1 movie anyway. I would have been really upset if I'd gone to Fandango and bought the tickets and found out later that I could have saved $10. Sure, it's just $10. Who cares? But it's still $10 I could have saved if I had known about the promotion.
Absolutely.
I found out about this promotion through people's outrage on the internet, not through Apple. And then I wrote about it because I was like, I wish I'd gotten this notification, and I'm glad I did before I purchase the tickets. And then I went and purchased the tickets. The ad worked. And I wrote this story about it, and I didn't get too much reaction to it. And so generally that means people tend to agree. The reactions tend to be the negative ones. And that's when you get 200 forum posts about how dumb your article was. So I'm hoping that people just read it and agreed with it and moved on with their lives. But if you guys want to comment on it, please reach out, comment in the forums, email me, go on Blue Sky, whatever. I'd love to hear your opinions on this, because it's really interesting to me, specifically me, because I've been paying attention to this kind of thing for a long time. This is one of those weird techie discussions that I've been having since like 2012 of, is advertising good? And what is Google and Facebook doing to the internet, to the world, with how they handle advertising? And that has been front of mind for me for a long time. It's why I stopped using Google early on. I was ahead of the delete Google campaigns that happened later towards the 2020s. I stopped using Google in like 2015. I don't use Facebook or Instagram or any of those things, because I find the surveillance capitalism, along with many other things, but we won't get into that. But at the very least, the surveillance capitalism portion of this, very disgusting. And I wish there was a better way to monetize the internet. And I will agree that it's necessary for the most part. Our website runs on Google Ads to an extent. And those ads are not intrusive. They're out of the way. They don't take over the content. You see them. You can click on them if you want to. And you can keep scrolling and read the article. We're really out of the way about it, and it helps us stay alive as a business. I think we do ads correctly, web ads anyway. Other websites are not so nice. They pop up things. They make you click a slideshow in order to read the article. Trying to get more and more SEO attribution, and it's annoying and wrong. And that's not how the internet should work. And Google and Facebook and Amazon and these companies have fundamentally changed the face of the internet because of their advertising businesses. And they've actually made ads such a chore, and usually so worthless and so annoying, that people are willing to fork out as much money as possible, sometimes doubling the amount of a subscription service, just to get rid of ads, right? You can get Netflix for like $8 a month as long as you're willing to watch an hour of ad for every 10 minutes of TV show. Then you pay $25 to get the full 4K ad-free rendition, right? So people have become disgusted by ads in the last decade, especially since on YouTube, you can't watch a video without multiple minutes of non-skippable, useless ads for the most part. I've never seen an ad on these web ads and been like, ooh, I need that. Then you look at what Apple's doing. I'm almost done, I promise. And then you look at what Apple's doing, and it is not any of that. It's not intrusive. It might be mildly annoying, but they're dismissible. And there's even going to be a toggle to turn them off. And all the other ads that are currently existing are dismissible, or you can toggle them off. So for people to lump them in together in the way that they have is wrong to me. Apple is not doing what Facebook and Google are doing. In Apple News, they have disgusting, terrible ads that I think they should get rid of, but that's a different type of ad, right? I think it's important that we separate the two.
I actually studied marketing. It was like the equivalent of a minor in my computing studies for it, and I'm very clear on the difference between marketing good, advertising can be bad. The point of marketing is to get something to the audience who will want it and benefit from it. Advertising is just slap everybody until they pay attention, and there are gradations between these. So I think about this a lot, but I don't have a brilliant and I don't have a firm opinion on it, because I've realised I have had Apple pop-up ads for games before, and I have found them irritating. And you would think even on device, the fact that I've never opened Game Center might make them tune out, that sort of stuff. But anyway, this actually feels like a very bad time to mention it, but AppleInsider Plus is available to buy. If you were already a subscriber, you get the extended version of this podcast without ads. Actually, so there you go. So it's a win-win in a way. And actually, as ever, Wes, you come up with the best ideas for AppleInsider Plus is going to be about. What is it this week?
So I wanted to go into our photo workflows. I wanted to talk about what do we, like from beginning to end, before we ever take a photo to how we're storing them. Basically, how are we capturing them? Do we use third-party apps? Do we even edit photos? Do we bother with that? Are we capturing video? What's the format? How big is our library in the first place? How do we think about just all of this, basically? And are we managing our photo library? So I just wanted to kind of dive into that because we've edged around photos a lot before, but I'm a big photo nerd. I manage my library very heavily, and I make a lot of very specific decisions around how I deal with my photos and my files, and I keep a lot of things very separate and organized, so I felt like it would be a good discussion.
Does this follow on from the fact that last week you were audibly shocked that I have Hazel automatically delete images after a certain amount of time?
Maybe, but also at least those should be files and hopefully not photos, but because there is a distinction.
Good point.
But yes, did you have anything else to say on our ad discussion? I know.
Yeah, I do. It's all very nebulous and unformed, and I kind of want to think about it. And I was going to say I'll wait till I see an F1 promotion, but there's actually been a weird thing. Officially, F1 opened earlier internationally than it did in the States. I think, isn't it 27th is the US date. It's 25th worldwide. But suddenly Apple stopped saying that and was just announcing it was 27th everywhere. But I checked my local cinema listings and they were willing to take my money early. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on with that, but it is out and I haven't been prompted. So I guess unless the film does badly and they start trying to drum up some traffic, I won't. I'll keep an eye out for it, but I like that thing of being able to switch them off. That feels like a nice feature.
This is one of those things where user control is important, and I understand a little bit of it. People are comparing it to the U2 album being inserted on their phones. Of like, oh, we didn't have any choice. This ad showed up on my phone, and now we have to dismiss it, and this is disgusting. And Apple is basically Microsoft now showing Candy Crush ads in Windows 8. Like. That's how, like, people are like, this ad killed my family and stole my dog and flattened my tires. Like, that's the level of outrage I'm seeing. And it's a notification you can swipe away. You can just close it. You don't have to act on it. It didn't it didn't take up battery life. It didn't play audio. It didn't have Brad Pitt climb out of your phone and punch you in the nose and steal your money. Like, I don't understand the outrage. And the only people outraged by this in particular seem to be the nerds. That I follow on the internet. I haven't seen a single regular human being. Like, normally when there's something silly, even in the Apple sphere, I would see like a comedian or someone step up and say, oh, look, I got an F1 notification, right? Like Mike Drucker hasn't posted about the F1 ticket showing up on his iPhone, right? Like, this doesn't seem to have escaped out of the techosphere. And I don't know, one of the things about this is yes, I think it's specifically because Google and Facebook have basically caused psychological warfare against us using ads, and we have learned to completely reject them. In my 20s, I believed that ads were below me, and I needed to do everything in my power to make sure I never saw another ad because they were disgusting and wrong, and And since then, I've learned, like, some ads are good, actually, right? I wouldn't know about this thing without getting a little flyer in my email. Or, when I was a kid, like many kids in the United States, we would get the Toys R Us catalog. That's an advertisement. But we would freak out and fawn over that book for hours. Yes. Because we wanted to see what cool new toys were available that we would never get to buy, especially like if you were in a family like mine, we had no money, but we still loved looking at the pictures and learning what toys were available. That was purely an advertisement. So
I can't remember what the UK equivalent to that was, but we had something like it. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we still get coupons in the mail. And, I get a coupon book every now and then from USPS. It's one of those, being who I am, I've looked into how to get rid of spam in your physical mailbox, right? And there's ways to do it. You can get on no mailing lists, and you can actually write the particular distributors and say, take my address off your list. But there are some things that can never be removed from your mailbox. These mandatory flyers are handed out by the USPS. And it's usually because the USPS gets a little... they're federally funded, but there's a lot of weird things there. I think local precincts get some kind of... Anyway, it doesn't matter. You get these flyers, right? You get these local coupon books. And a lot of them can be useful. It's like, go to this local restaurant and get a hold of this dinner for this much money or whatever. Well, I've never heard of anyone in my life seeing an ad in that coupon book and being upset about it enough to write the USPS and then yelling at them that they didn't want that shampoo, right? And that feels similar here. The F1 notification could apply to anyone that owns an iPhone, because who knows who's going to go see this movie. Apple is obviously hoping this promotes the movie and makes people want to go see it because they're saving $10. But at the same time, it's useful information for the people who are going to see it anyway, and the percentage of people who were never going to see it can just throw it away. No harm done. So I don't understand why you wouldn't want to be informed, because maybe the next one is a Beyonce concert, right? Like,
sure.
Because the wallet app is where tickets go, right? When you buy the Fandango ticket, it goes into the wallet app. It makes sense to advertise it here. And I have a feeling the future wallet ads, their promotions, are going to be similar in nature. Go to this concert, go to this movie. Right. Sometimes you want to know about that. And because of that, you're going to see some things you don't want. And then you just simply swipe it away. I just don't understand. Like nowhere have I seen people say, I would rather pay the extra $10. They're just mostly, I don't want this advertisement. And it's just like, but what are you going to do otherwise?
There is a kind of logical flaw in your argument here. Let me just check. USPS is the United States Postal Service, yes. Isn't it? Yes. So you're assuming that people wrote to the USPS and it got there. So, there's some doubt here. But maybe more significantly, in all of that, as you were saying all these things about people, there was just this small hint that you don't regard you and I as nerds, which I actually took as a flattering point, except that...
No, I'm fully a nerd. I 100%. That's what I'm saying though. I'm a nerd who didn't react this way. So I'm sure, and I've had a few people comment like, yeah, you're right. This is useful information. It's actionable information. It's not, because the sinful dirty word ad that people seem to think about when they say ad is the ads that I get, right? When I open AppleInsider, because I don't use Google products, I am an alien to them. They don't know what to show me. So usually it's women's undergarments or Ford F-150s with American flags off of the back of them. And neither of those are anywhere in my target audience. Like, that is the dirty word ad people think about when they think of ads. What they think about is interstitials on YouTube for brain rot garbage, right? And then, but then they're applying the same word to a genuinely possibly useful coupon that appears on your phone for a service that you might actually want to take advantage of.
This episode is brought to you by IDOU. It's a little unlikely, isn't it, to go an hour, I mean certainly not a day, without hearing something else about AI, and yet it's really likely that what you hear will be hyperbole that you just can't connect to your work or your needs. IDOU is about AI, but really it's about that last word. It's about you. Maybe you're running a team and you keep hearing AI will help. Or perhaps you're in a team and it feels like everyone else has found the secret to this AI. IDOU is online training in AI and design thinking. It's online training and education for people who are interested in AI, certainly, but whose interest is in using it to achieve your work and your business goals. Now, as fun as the courses are, this is not about playing with AI tools. It is about transforming your professional life, and it is about applying practical new skills to get immediate, tangible progress. The side of IDOU that appeals to me, it's their range of self-paced courses, really, because I'm interested in using AI to help me with design. I mean, I don't mean getting it to draw me pictures, but to help me understand design and thinking about design, to help me understand what I can do and expand what I think I'm capable of. And with self-paced courses like this, you get around 8 to 10 hours of tuition, and it's up to you when you do it. Spend a lunch hour today or an evening tomorrow. Fit this essential learning in around your busy schedule. But There are also cohort courses where you join a class that's online, but at specific times and with specific sessions. Some might be 5 weeks long, some might be 10. And there are certificate programs. Over 2 to 3 months, working around 4 hours a week, you can learn, say, design thinking skills and apply them to real-world challenges. Certificate and cohort courses start regularly, and of course self-paced courses begin the moment you're ready. Class starts soon, so enroll today. For a limited time, IDOU is offering our listeners 15% off site-wide. Go to idou.com/AppleInsider. That's IDOU, so spelt the letters I, D, E, O, and U.com/AppleInsider for 15% off. One more time, idou.com/AppleInsider. And thank you to IDOU for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. But I'm going to stop you there because I want to hang on to, am I a nerd, am I not a nerd? Mm-hmm. I want to hang on to the thing of services that we do or don't want, because I was in two minds of whether to tell you this, but basically I'm just going to do it now because otherwise you just watch me thinking about it. Yesterday morning, I wrote a shortcut that used Apple Intelligence features. I've created my own transcription app. And earlier on today, I dragged it's an old WWDC keynote that I was researching. Keynote's 2 hours, 20 minutes. My shortcut transcribed 20,000 words of it in under a minute and a half. It's just great. And I created it in moments because of Apple Intelligence in shortcuts in macOS Tahoe. Isn't that great? Except Apple Intelligence went down this week, didn't it? How did it go down?
So this is weird. The more I've looked into it, and I've never had confirmation otherwise, so we can safely assume now that this was only affecting beta users. People took issue with me treating the outage as a general outage because I didn't have any evidence to say otherwise, but it does seem to be a beta-specific outage. And iOS 26 or etc. users, actually I saw John Gruber call it OS 26, as in like just referring to all of them. I like that, just calling it Apple's operating. That was because now we can do that. It's a blanket statement. But the new operating systems, everyone who had Apple Intelligence installed, because it is a toggle, you can turn it off, found that they had, like, the first discovery was mostly they had the old Siri animation for some reason. I ran into it throughout the Thursday. Even as we recorded that Thursday, I had come in and I couldn't access Workout Buddy because someone needed screenshots. And I was like, oh, that's weird. That might be a beta 2 issue or something. Not a beta 2, but Apple did a 0.1.1 update or whatever for iPhone. So I just dismissed it as whatever. And then I got onto my shift and noticed I couldn't use writing tools. I couldn't do X, Y, Z. And each computer randomly would just stop using Apple Intelligence altogether. The only one that was left was the Mac, and I was able to still edit my text there, thankfully, while the outage was done. But
sorry, do you just say again the Mac to the rescue? Mm-hmm. Okay, but yes, so that one saved the day. So basically,
yeah. So it took me a second to it registered in my brain. I'm like, wait a minute, this is an outage, and Apple's services status page doesn't have anything for Apple Intelligence because theoretically you wouldn't have an outage in Apple Intelligence because it's on your device.
Yeah.
Turns out you can have an on-device outage because when you're downloading an update, it becomes unavailable during the update. And Apple pushed a beta Apple Intelligence feature update to beta users, and it stalled server-side somehow. And everyone that basically every device that polled that server to say, hey, is there an update available, got told yes, there's an update, went to fetch the update, stalled, and rendered Apple Intelligence inaccessible for every device that tried to pull that server. It wasn't until I wrote the article pointing out this isn't working, Apple reached out to me and was like, hey, we saw this article, what? And then like minutes later everything started flowing again. So I'm glad that got resolved.
Yeah. But we have to thank you. That's great. Okay.
I'm sure they were somewhat aware of it before I wrote it, but they did reach out pretty quickly, and then it was resolved very shortly afterwards. So I am taking full credit.
You should, yes. Okay.
But yeah, that was interesting. I don't think that's going to happen very often. That's such a very specific oops case, right? But
Yeah.
it is interesting to think like, yes, your Apple Intelligence could technically go out if Apple flubs an update.
I could not have figured that out. I'm glad you said it because I had that reverting to the old Siri thing just for a moment, and it's so weird how old it
Hmm.
looked already. It was very strange
Well,
having it. But
I came to that conclusion because only recently during WWDC we heard from the executives, Greg Joswiak and Craig Federighi, were talking about Apple Intelligence a lot, and one of the questions was asked, like, how often is it updated? And someone that they basically said all the time, like we've been updating the model constantly since it came out in iOS 18.1. It just gets pushed over the air, basically. So they're over the air updates, and that's what made it click in my head. It's like, oh, it's an over the air update. You don't instigate it, you don't do it. It just does it on its own sometimes, and we don't know about it. And this must be what happened, and I guess that is basically what happened. Is the over the air update failed?
yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, Apple contacting you about it and then fixing it does sound like you're on the right key. It's not like they said Android invaded our phones or whatever. So well reasoned and nicely sorted out. I love this kind of detail behind things you don't normally think about. But as part of this, I mean, can you call that a bug? Not, I suppose it was. An outage is kind of a bug, but into this next set of updates that we're going to talk about in a moment, I've been having more problems. Specifically today, as we record this, 4 or 5 emails have come to me twice. So I've had the new bleep, the new notification, the unread thing, even though I've read them already. And it's only for about half of the emails that are coming through. I don't know what's going on with my mail database, but it's definitely, we're right to not use the betas, even though we're using the betas, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's always bugs. Even on my best version, like it's the 1 terabyte whatever iPhone 16 Pro Max, best chipset Apple makes for a mobile phone, and it's constant stuttering and like, if not constant, like there are times when it's all fluid and perfect. It's just when it decides it's not going to be, it is a drag. Springboard freezes and resprings. The app library can't scroll. The animation sticks for the new light reflections. Like there's a lot of weird little things like that, and you just have to know how to work around it. Generally, when that happens, I swipe away from app library and use Spotlight to access an app instead of clicking on the app icon. Yeah, there's always going to be bugs. Beta 2 is similar in scale. Like it's better in a lot of ways, but also introduces new bugs. But they're on the right track. I think this is a good indicator, though, that Apple is sticking to their guns as far as Liquid Glass. They're not walking it back really at all. They tweaked some stuff in Safari in Beta 2, bringing back a couple of the buttons that were hidden behind the ellipsis menu, which good on them, because some things were taking more taps than they should. Right now, though, I'm noticing the menu, when you right-click in the address bar in Safari on iPadOS, is getting much more similar to macOS. The first thing that shows up in the right-click menu is the share icon, which was not the case before. Previously, it was copy. So my muscle memory there is a little broken. I have to go down 2 items and then click copy in order to get there. Just a lot of little things like that across the system. They've improved visibility for Liquid Glass in a lot of spaces that people are complaining about. Specifically, the lock screen and control center are now, the backgrounds are getting more blurred, and the buttons are more opaque in certain aspects. So people's complaints were definitely addressed there. I think that was smart. But yeah, it seems like Apple's really committed to this.
I should say, all those bugs you mentioned on the iPhone and things, I haven't had one of those. It's funny, you'd think everybody would get everything, but I've been lucky on that sense, just not in others. And there is a change, walking back a little bit of Liquid Glass on the Mac. You just mentioned Control Center, and the same on the Mac. That's actually, I just clicked on Control Center 6 because I hadn't noticed the difference, but it is slightly clearer, I suppose. I didn't have any problem with its clarity before, but apparently now the menu bar can be turned back on, and I don't know what to think about that because I remember when it was changed before to be translucent, and I didn't like it many, many years ago. This time it seemed fine to me. Everything's very clear, nothing's lost the way it was before. But on the other hand, I've been using a Mac menu bar since the 80s, so I know what it is. If somebody came new, it's just this random floating array of icons in a corner. Maybe it doesn't make sense without a menu bar of some description under it, but it doesn't seem to be the default to turn it back on, so I don't know. So you're right, they're not changing things dramatically. They're not really walking things back. But are there new things in iPadOS or iOS that you particularly like in the betas?
I haven't noticed anything too particularly new. Journal is still broken as far as sync is concerned, so I tested this. I got a journal to move from one journal to the other, and it synced on my iPhone and iPad mini, but not on my iPad Pro. And if I tried to type in an entry on iPad Pro, it would not sync back, so I had to undo that move to make everything sync again. So there's still some things broken, and especially in the newness of certain apps. But overall, not anything significantly different that I can remember recall. Let's see. I know
you wouldn't expect big new features, but there were things like isn't it easier now to add ringtones and things? So nice little touches.
Yeah, you don't need iMovie, I think. Like iMovie was the hack around getting ringtones on your iPhone, and I think you can just do it from settings now. There's little things like that. iOS, like mostly this was just a bug fix update, it seems like. They just kind of addressed the issues people were complaining about.
Yeah.
But also, we did get one significant change in macOS.
Oh, I know what this is going to be. This is, I've seen this as Apple corrects the massive design flaw in liquid glass. It's the Finder icon, isn't it?
Yep, the long national nightmare is over. The Finder colors have now swapped back to their original scheme. However, the dark mode icon is kind of a mess. Have you looked at this thing?
No, I've been using full colour or clear occasionally when I've been in a opaque kind of mood. I just, every time I go into the tint options, I think I am never going to piddle about with this for long enough to like it, and I come out again. But as you say this, you're telling me if I go to dark mode, that it looks weird.
So,
okay,
not everyone agrees that the new Finder icon's enough. Stephen Hackett, the one I mentioned before, he's kind of an Apple historian nerd. He founded Relay FM. He writes for 512 Pixels. So he was the one who wrote this thing, and Craig Federighi apparently heard immediately after he wrote it about this complaint. Like, this was during WWDC, like the day after the keynote. Like, it all moved very quickly, so that's why I guess this fix got into the beta right away. But Stephen Hackett is satisfied with the blue being on the left and surrounding the right side now minimum face. Like, people are kind of comparing it to the Phantom of the Opera mask, where it covers half of his, a quarter of his face instead of half anyway. But yeah, so that's different. Whereas until now, the face was 50-50 on both sides. So like John Gruber still says that's wrong and bad, but you can never please everyone. But then you look at, but I think the design's fine. I can see what they were doing. The first time, it wasn't like, ooh, let's undo history. It was, I want the transparent color to be the bigger color and wrap around the entire thing. And I want, that way we can emphasize liquid glass. And that was clearly a mistake, as far as design nerds go. And now the bigger color is the blue one. But then you look at dark mode, and the left side color that surrounds the blue color is now black, gray.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets weird. The eyes are different colors. So the black side eye is blue, the blue side eye is black. And then the smile, because it intersects both colors, is a gradient that goes from blue to black. It's very odd, right? Whereas on the original Finder color, the eyes and mouth are just black because they show up clearly on blue and white both. but because black is now a color in the icon, they can't do that. And making them white would probably be weird too. And then would go against the whole dark mode idea. So I don't know how you solve this one, and I don't think it's going to change again. I think this is what we're stuck with, but it is a very odd design. It's very different from what you would expect from an Apple icon.
It's really making me reconsider the whole of macOS Tahoe. I might downgrade back to... I mean, not to fix Logic Pro, obviously not, but just to do that. Although, actually, like Logic Pro opened today, I've gone through the whole thing, new beta, deleted the app, reinstalled the app. I think there's a plugin somewhere going wrong, because Logic Pro is, quite, well, in my experience, famously delicate anyway. But it opened this morning, and it stayed open for quite a while. I just didn't actually have anything to edit in it, so we'll find out later. So watch this. Don't do anything until you hear an update. But
I do wish we could have the Finder icon in Files on iPadOS. I know it's not Finder, but it's still a good icon. It's a very Mac icon, right? Like Finder just doesn't like that face, that design. It just does not belong on iPadOS, but I still want it.
This episode is brought to you by OpenCase. Tired of your MagSafe accessories slipping around or sliding off, especially when, moving in and out of pockets? OpenCase is an iPhone case with a literal open space on the back to hold MagSafe accessories more securely in place while creating a thinner profile and lighter weight than traditional cases. This unique cutout allows MagSafe accessories to adhere directly to the back of the phone, cradling your accessory of choice in place with a lip the cutout naturally creates. So no more catching on jean pockets, bags or jackets. Wireless batteries, Apple wallets and other accessories will adhere straight to the phone back through the open space with OpenCase. In addition to the patented phone case, they have a suite of products that work specifically with their design or any iPhone with MagSafe. And it's not just OpenCase products that work with the case. As long as the accessory shares the same footprint or smaller as the open space, it should fit. You don't need to worry about the case being compatible with only one brand of accessories. Visit theopencase.com. That's opencase.com and use promo code AppleInsider for 10% off. And thanks to OpenCase for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. How about speakers? Just because you said it that way, things you want. I have a feeling that there is an option I do not want on my Apple Watch that you might. I need to explain. I'm an old fat writer. I'm doing 5K to couch. That's the way around for me. So I do not want a workout buddy going, "Yay, William, that was great." Partly because I'll never hear it, but also it will just irritate me if I ever do. But you tried using Workout Buddy last week to get screenshots. Couldn't get them then because of the outage. Have you become enamored of it since?
So it's funny, Workout Buddy, it's going to show up in specific kinds of workouts, but only if it's not going to show up during Fitness Plus. I may be wrong, but I use Fitness Plus quite a bit, and I haven't had Workout Buddy jump in and say, keep going. It also only works when you have AirPods in. So I would have to be doing Fitness Plus on a device with AirPods in, and then I guess I would get Workout Buddy. I don't do that, though. I do Fitness Plus through speakers on an Apple TV. So maybe it's a test I just need to do separately. But I did do a workout that all the stars aligned. I rode my bike on Friday.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I go usually when the weather is permitting, and sadly this week it's not because it is 1,000 degrees and now thunderstorming.
Yes.
So I probably will not be on my bike this week, sadly. I love riding. But I went out and started an outdoor cycle, and about a block into riding, I got this chipper voice. "Good job on starting a biking workout so early in the day. You just now did this." And it just tells you what you're doing. And then it concluded with, enjoy your ride, and note that your, what is it called? Your workout load is historically low for this week, right? So it's kind of funny how it mixes the good information and bad information, but it's always this chipper voice, and it's very human, the voice. It's not robotic. and it just jumped in the middle of my podcast, said that, and then my podcast continued fine. And then 5 miles in, it jumped in and said, "You are 5 miles into your ride. Good job. Keep up the good work." And Apple did this thing where it says the name of whatever you're listening to, which I don't know that Apple thought it completely through, because depending on what you're listening to, you can get some pretty interesting results. I happen to be listening to a show called Do by Friday, which is Merlin Mann and Alex Cox. It's been kind of a on-running, I would call it a comedy show. They're like weirdly tech adjacent, but they are funny, and their titles especially are comedic in nature. They always choose the funniest title that they can think of for the show. And
hang on, can I just leave it? This is a family show. So
no, there's no
okay, just
no
checking.
no cursing, okay. But it is funny. So the workout buddy popped up and said, "You've gone 5 miles. Good job. Keep up the good work with ideological manscaping." And I almost had to stop because it's such a silly title and such a good show, and that is not what the show is about. But that was just a title they chose out of the random phrases that they said during the show, and the AI just read it out just straight, like did not care, and I found that very humorous. But anyway, Workout Buddy, it works. It does its job.
Yeah, but I've got to ask. I mean, we don't often play up the fact that you're American and I'm British, but is this just a British thing? Because if Siri says that to me on my watch, the politest thing I will say back is, "Oh, give me a break." And it reminds me of ChatGPT. If I use it now, I have to explicitly say, "Don't use exclamation marks," because if I don't say that, it also puts in, "What a great idea this was, and what a fantastic prompt. You're the most wonderful human being ever. Just answer the question." Mm-hmm. Is that a British reserve thing that I don't like being...
No, everyone finds it annoying when it's full of like all these platitudes, and just get to the point. Because especially if you've ever interacted with like these chatbots kind of things, the longer you talk to it, the more platitudes you'll get because it's kind of running out of steam. It's like,
no, I didn't know.
Well,
that.
Yeah, like it depends on what you're doing, but it's like, well, I'm glad you asked that. This is a really important question. I can't wait to give you the answer. The answer is going to blow your mind. This was a really good question. Did you know your question was really good? And it just keeps like, it gets into this like logical loop or whatever. And it's very funny. But Apple clearly wanted their Workout Buddy to be enthusiastic and encouraging, and it didn't do anything for me. Like, it was nice though, because this gets back to the ad thing. You get a lot of notifications on your watch, especially when you're working out. It'll be like, you've done this, you've done 1 lap, you've done 1 mile, and you kind of dismiss it. But when it's talking in your ear, you can't ignore it. And I kind of appreciate that, because it popped up on my bike ride and said, "You've ridden 100 miles on your bicycle this year." And I'm like, I would not know that unless you told me, right? Like, so that's... It's nice. It's a nice thing, and you can turn it off. I think I'll keep using it just because it's interesting. It's kind of a toy. You don't really interact with it. You don't really do anything with it. It's just giving you information, and Apple just made a nice voice for it. But this gets back to Apple Health and Fitness, these apps being impartial, because like there's so much data in there. What do you do with all this information? And having a little robot come tell me what's important is kind of nice.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, sorry, just because you put this into my head, and if I don't say it, I'll forget it. You said about you only get this if you're using the AirPods and all that stuff. I found out this week that there's been a small update to AirPods beta. Now, if you want to have the beta version of the AirPods firmware, you can actually do it through settings, Bluetooth, whatever your AirPods are, push a button, instead of whatever it was you used to have to do with schlepping through updating the iPhone first. I'm not going to risk my AirPods on the betas, but I seem to have risked everything else, so don't ask me next week if I didn't. Except it just occurs to me that I love this time of year because it's so software focused. How many W's can you put in one sentence, William? WWDC. It's just great for me. I'm a software nut far, far more than I am hardware. But as soon as there's a certain point we get to when we're coming out of the software world and starting to look ahead to hardware. And this week, that's begun again. There are new rumours, and it's one I imagine you're interested in because I understand there are reports of the M5 OLED iPad Pro in production or nearing production. Are you on top of this and excited?
So I don't remember my stance on this device anymore because it's actually been a while since we've talked about new iPad hardware. I believe it was originally... Oh, yes. So the last time we really talked about iPad hardware was, I want to say Mark Gurman and someone else was really adamant that Apple was minutes away from releasing an iPad Pro with M5, right? Like this spring, before WWDC, we were meant to get new iPad hardware, and there was eventually a point where it came out that it was quote unquote delayed to the fall. It was never coming out this spring. iPad has consistently been an 18-month cycle, so it makes sense that we'll see one this fall, this winter. And this rumor lines up with my usual estimates of 18-ish, if not 2 years. Sometimes we do get closer to 20, 24 months. This is a spec bump. This is so we went, how did it go? It was M1, M2. Did we get an M3 and then we got an M4, right? So I had M1 iPad Pro, and then the M2 came out and it had that Apple Pencil Hover and a new chip.
Oh, yes.
That was it. I didn't buy it, right? It just wasn't going to do anything for me. M4 was a radical change, right? M5, the redesign's done. Apple's not going to change the case again. We could see some different OLED laminate. There's some rumors about that. There's different rumors about just certain technologies. But from what we can gather... Oh, let me say that again, because I just slapped the microphone.
Yeah.
From what we can gather, this is just the M4 iPad Pro, but it has an M5 chip in it. That seems to be it, and that, for some people, is enough. There's a lot of people who never bought the M4 who want the upgrade, but want the latest hardware, and M4 is going to start sounding old really soon when the M5 comes out, so it's just, that's what you do. You spec bump. And for the people who already have M4, it might be impossible to argue that you should get an M5. I don't think I'll be getting one unless, this is weird, I know, unless they do something with the hardware that's very specific that I want to take advantage of. If they come out with M5 iPad Pro and say this has 2 Thunderbolt 5 ports and it can connect to 6 external monitors, I might be like, yeah, I'm going to have to buy that. If they come out with a larger model that's 16 inches, I'm going to have to buy that, right? Like, changes like that are significant enough that it's going to affect my workflow? Absolutely. But I wouldn't hold my breath. I think this is a pure chipset update.
See, the funny thing is, I saw the headline for this, and M5 seemed obvious, but I thought, OLED, you'll like that, because I forgot that the current iPad you've got has OLED screen, hasn't it?
Yep.
That's because I'm still on a 2021 iPad Pro, an 11-inch one, and unfortunately it's working superbly. There's nothing I can do to justify going to another one, but I really fancy a larger screen. I'm just not fussed about OLED, so...
I'm forgetting the rumor, but there was another rumor floating around recently about this being another Apple Pencil focused update. So new chipset, new pencil feature. So again, it doesn't apply to me. And it depends on what they do. I mean, I'm not going to say no. There's always the chance that work might need me to get one. And that's a whole hullabaloo, and won't get into the background details of how that all works. But if I need to get one, sure. But for my own personal purchasing history, I can confidently say there's a 80% chance I won't be buying this iPad. But there's the 20% chance that Apple will do something significant enough that drives me to it. I had the iPad 3 or whatever, and then bought the new iPad 4, like 3 months later. So, like,
yeah,
it's not always about, like, ooh, it's too close together, I don't care. It's about, what is it giving me? And at the time, going from a 30-pin to a Lightning port was more than enough to convince me to buy a new iPad within a couple of months. This, however, I don't know. They're not going to change the display specs. They're not going to introduce anything new to the how it's designed or its magnetic system. They're not going to break any accessories with it. I was joking about the 2-port thing. They're not going to add a port. They could, though, make it so it exclusively gets a clamshell mode, or it exclusively gets external display for 2 display. External 2 display. Jeez, I can't say this phrase. It won't get to USB-C ports or Thunderbolt ports. That's not going to happen. Apple's not going to change the chassis again, even for a port edition. But what it could get is 2 external display support, right? So basically, you can have the iPad running with 2 external displays connected over a Thunderbolt dock, right? Because you only have 1 port. Fine. Or you chain 2 Thunderbolt displays together. Fine. That's clear. That's obvious. That's a good direction. The MacBook Air can do it. A lot of people want clamshell mode as well. That's another obvious. It would be annoying that it wouldn't come to older iPads. I don't know the limitation there. But yeah, there's things Apple could do here to kind of sneakily add features and say this is M5 exclusive. It just depends. We'll see where we get to. But right now, I can say if it's just a chipset and an Apple Pencil feature, I probably won't buy it this year.
There is one last thing I want us to cover this week, but let's just try things back. I just said we were talking software, and a tiny bit of hardware. You wrote a really interesting piece about the iPad this week that was actually, I think, all about software. It was the 5 ways that iPad OS 26 in particular is improving things in kind of like a productivity way. What are your top 5 then?
So I mentioned this existing last week mostly to point people to a picture of the Files app because we were talking about colored files.
Yes.
But now this article, I believe, it was a subscription where you subscribe to our newsletter article, and it would have been blocked until you enter your email address. Now it's fully open, and you can go read it. So it's in the show notes. Go check it out. I enjoyed this. I had to figure out a good way to take a photo of my desk again, which is always a challenge because glare is such an issue on displays. But I think I nailed it this time.
Yeah, hang on. I thought one of the points of OLED. Wait, there's OLED and there's OLED with scratches in and whatever that's called that does don't go. But you didn't go for the nanotexture.
Oh,
thank you. You didn't go for that version.
Oh no, my iPad's pristine. It has nanotexture. I have a studio display without nanotexture, and so. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, right. I'm looking at the photo now, but I didn't get the scale of it. So you have. I've got to tell you, we'll make this the show off as everybody can look. But you have a lot of screens on your desk. You do.
The iPad Mini is mostly there in case I need something else. It's my third device. It used to be a home for Slack, but now the Mac's kind of taken that position because I need to keep my green dot on so it looks like I'm working, or I'm actually working. So I'm
not going to say the Mac to the rescue again over a little green dot, but yeah. Okay, yes.
But the iPad Mini comes in handy. Like I said before, it's nice that it has contact posters now because someone calls me when I'm working on my iPad. A call notification's this little guy in the corner, and I can look at it or whatever. But it's nice that I also have a device on my desk that gets this giant full screen image of whoever's calling. I can easily swipe on it. My AirPods automatically connect. It's a third device. If I want to go have dinner, I can grab that entire stand it's standing on and take it with me to the dinner table, or carry just the iPad because it's magnetically attached. Just snap it off, carry it with me. It's just a bigger display that's easier to read than my phone, and it serves its own little purpose. But yeah, I have a lot of screens around me at my desk, but they're not always on. The iPad Mini is usually off at my desk unless I decide to turn on a Pokemon cartoon or something to have on in the background. But because background noise can sometimes be nice. I usually play a lot of music, but podcasts, other things, it just gives me another option to manage these tools or have AirPlay controls for the HomePod, stuff like that, without taking up real estate on my work device, right? Because I want to see I want to utilize those displays as much as I can. So moving on, the 5 things is windowing, background tasks, audio recording, files preview, and Apple Intelligence. So I detailed this plenty on the previous episodes. You guys can just go read the article. I'm really enjoying the new windowing system. I think it's a powerful productivity tool for iPadOS. I'm learning more about it the more I use it. Quirky little things here and there. I'm finding myself sometimes accidentally closing windows because I'll nudge over to grab a window and then click X instead. So that's something to get used to, because those expansions happen so quickly that you're halfway through the click that the animation is playing, and then you're already clicking the X by accident. Background tasks is something I just can't even take advantage of. I want everyone to enjoy my photo of the audio recording setup, because I didn't use my face in that. So just pointing that out.
Okay.
And then
you've actually just reminded me. I said last week that I would try connecting my iPad to my monitor, and I entirely forgot. I vowed to do it this time and just see that it works exactly the way you say it does.
What's your RAM on your iPad? Is it 8 gigabytes?
Oh, goodness me.
Do you know your storage?
5 years since I bought this. I think I went for cheap.
Not 1 terabyte.
I doubt it was a terabyte.
So 8 gigs of RAM. So you could open 8 windows side by side on your external monitor and probably see all of them because it's ultra wide.
Okay. I have 256 gigabytes capacity, and I can't actually see where the RAM was. I have almost nothing left.
Yeah, it won't tell you RAM, but we know what the RAM is based on the storage.
Oh, right. So what have I got? Go on then. Your iPad man, are you able to just rattle off?
Well, what's your storage?
M1, 256 gigabytes. That equals. I'll be so impressed.
Gigs. Yeah, it's just 8 gigs.
I am so impressed. You can do that. Wait, unless
there's
all
only
of them
2
are
options.
8 gigs except one.
Yeah, it's all 8 gigs. Still. So it's been that way since the M series iPads started. So every M series iPad that has anything up to 512 is 8 gigs of RAM. 1 terabytes or 2 terabytes is 16 gigs of RAM.
Okay, it's like the magician giving away how it's done now. But I mentioned that there's one last thing I want to do, and I even though I know about this and I wrote about it, I'm a little wary of my own opinions about it. So I would like to ask you, please, IO versus IO, and it's nothing to do with Jupiter's moons. EO.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the sits with this?
All right, this is all very dumb. It's your usual. I'm not going to go so far as to say patent troll or whatever, or trademark troll, but it is a little annoying, I guess. This whole Sam Altman OpenAI buying Johnny Ive's IO has been put on hold because of a trademark dispute from an, weirdly enough, AI company called IYO that is making a screenless audio-first device that lets you communicate with AI. It's like they knew Johnny Ive was going to do this. I know it's not true, but it's a little too perfect of a lawsuit. And yeah, the judge is ruling in their favor, clearly. So I think all they're going to have to really do is change the name of Johnny Ive's company to like BO. I don't know, just something else. Because
does that not mean the same thing in America as it does here? Okay,
it's a pun. So anyway, it's a very poor joke on my part. But I'm just saying, wouldn't it be really funny if this silly little distraction just causes it all to disappear? They just give up because they just don't want to deal with it. Maybe it just
go home with their $6.5 billion in their pocket.
Well, Sam Altman's very upset. He's on Twitter posting that he's very like, this is dumb. I can't remember the language he used because I don't think it's in this post, but yeah, he basically just said this is incredibly stupid and we're gonna fight it or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is still weird. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm very interested in seeing this hardware. I would hate for it to all die before we get to see what it is, because there's at least a 60% chance that it's going to be an absolute abject failure train wreck, and we're all going to want to watch that train wreck. And there's this 40% chance that it might be something a few people will buy. I think there's a 0% chance this is going to be anything huge, though. But we'll see. I might be wrong.
I'm more confident of it because I like the way Johnny Ive thinks about things, so I'm more positive. We should say, I think what all this has done is give publicity to this IYO thing, who I'd never heard of, even though they've given TED Talks. They've been pre-orders available for this thing. They were, and it's...
You know what this reminds me of? Because it seems the trademark dispute arose specifically because they were seeking to get acquired by OpenAI and got passed for Johnny Ive.
Oh.
So it does seem to be a little bit of a vengeance thing. This reminds me a lot of Massimo and Apple Watch. So just saying, it's ringing like it's doing all the same things, and I have a feeling they're going to lose whatever lawsuit this is. So they're going to have to figure out how to do this without the IO name, which was never going to be a thing anyway. So maybe the lawsuit goes deeper than just the trademark issue, because it sounds like they're taking issue with the fact that it is an audio first AI device as well. I don't know. We'll just have to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I should expect. Do have a look at the article about this, because it actually has photographs of the IYO thing, which is like an AI earbud, really. But even saying that to you, you're picturing AirPods and that type of sizing. It's just basically a plate that goes next to your ear.
Imagine
again, that's exaggeration. It should be called Eero. That's not a name that's been used anywhere else. Okay.
So remember the Bluetooth pieces people would wear in like 2006?
Oh yes, or in Star Trek all those years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like
the hailing frequencies stylist thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the giant Bluetooth earbuds, not earbuds, but earpiece that you'd use to make phone calls from circa 2006. There was a word for those people. I'm not going to say on the show, but like, yeah, they definitely look. It's similar to that. It's very ugly and stupid, and never going to sell anything. But they have a lawsuit, so have fun.
Well, on that bombshell, do you know? I realise we got this far into the show without mentioning AI for such a long time. There must be a prize for that, or possibly some comments in the review section. Are we letting people down by not covering AI enough? Has there been anything this week that was good on the reviews?
Well, we've had quite a slowdown. I think we're hitting what's the term? Kind of capacity for everyone that listens to the show has left a review. I know that's not true, but it's the people willing to leave a review have left a review. But we did get one in this past week. Someone said they really enjoy this podcast. Best regards. They did mention the fuzz from the last episode, but we realized what was going on there. I think William might have had two microphones too close together or something, but no worries there. But thanks for the review. And we also, that was from Christopher126. 5 stars, best Apple podcast, they said. And we had a second review here. It might have been an updated review because I remember this name, Crosby SW. They wanted to point out that they're probably the second youngest viewer, because I mentioned before someone said they were below 13. This person says that they've given us a 5-star review last time, but they wanted to point out that they are 13 exactly, so I'm your second youngest viewer after the last one. So thanks for that. Always thanks for the 5-star review, and glad you guys are here. Doesn't matter your age. This is information for everyone, and if you want to leave a review and have it read on the show, doesn't matter the star rating. Yeah, go ahead and leave a review. I will point it out here and happily share. You can also, of course, make comments more anonymously if you want to send us emails. I'm at wes@appleinsider.com. Always happy to see those. I've had a few this week, so that was fun. And you can also reach out on Blue Sky, Mastodon, or, again, I'll keep promoting it because we're trying to make it a better place. Our forums, you can always join and start having discussions there if that's something you're interested in. So, yeah, William, you're all over the internet, right?
Yes, I am. Although I particularly want to echo that point there that if you have a comment about my audio problems, Wes at AppleInsider.com is the way to go. I'm more often to be seen at the moment on 58 Keys, which 58 Keys on YouTube, a channel specifically for writers. So there's that there for writers, but there's also William at AppleInsider.com for everything else. Before we get into Apple Insider Plus, which we prompt earlier in a very marketing way, I should do some sort of pop-up thing on the podcast just to fit the theme. I'll work on that in the chapter art somewhere. Stop looking at me like that. It was just an idea. Okay. Apple Insider Plus is about actually genuinely a thing that throws me on the Mac. It's an area I think I'm particularly poor on, so I'm going to steal advice and hopefully get around to using it about photography on it. I genuinely get lost on this, so looking forward to hearing more about it and asking possibly thick questions. There are no stupid questions. Well, I think there are, challenge accepted. But that's in App Insider Plus in a moment, which is available to you if you're a subscriber to the App Insider podcast. And if you're not, then do please join us. It'd be a treat to have you, and you can join in a thrice through either Patreon or Apple's Podcasts Connect service. Notes for everything are in the description of the show. And actually, Notes for Everything is true, because as well as how to do that, there's also links for every article we've mentioned, every topic we've mentioned. So have a cup of tea, have a really good read with it. And in the meantime, thank you very much for listening. Thank you too to our sponsors, IDOU and OpenCase, and we'll be back next week.
Yep, talk then.